Hey, what's up? This is Ask Jeeves here. Accessories are a key part of fashion and of self-expression generally, I suppose, both because there are just so many different types of things out there, so many different ways they can be worn and combined together, and they just feel like they have that kind of personal link in a way that many items of clothing don't. Everyone has to wear pants, we all have to go out wearing pants unless you want to get arrested, but it's your choice to wear rings, other jewellery, pendants, bags, all that kind of stuff. It's all up to you. So doing so kind of feels like you're putting your personal stamp on your outfit. So we're looking at a bunch of awesome stuff from very well-known brands to much smaller ones, and the more affordable stuff to the more luxury stuff, so there'll definitely be something for everyone in here. Massive thanks to everyone who was able to send through some stuff for this video. Obviously it is much appreciated and it is super helpful as well. It means that we can do cool videos like this every single week, and there are a few things in here that I bought myself as well, so of course I will mention those when they pop up. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at is also the biggest accessory on this list, which is the Motif crossbody VX bag, and attached to it the little pouch VX too. This is definitely one of the better looking bags of this type. It's quite long, it's quite slim, it doesn't have to be too bulky unless you want it to, thanks to that little combo of the gusset and this little drawer cord system here, so you can have it quite kind of slim, or you can bulk that out if you need to fill it up with a bunch of stuff. It's also finished with the water-resistant X-Pack, meaning it very much holds up aesthetically to the other kinds of bags in this space. Unlike many tactical bags though, the minimised branding on here, and also the removal of kind of more military-focused features that maybe would not be quite as useful to civilians, are not present on here. And in fact, the removable pouch as well gives this a bit of a different look. You can either have this looking a bit more sleek or a bit more maximalist, depending on your preference. On the front we've got a fidlock buckle, so you can remove this at a moment's notice if you need to, and the strap as well, in kind of similar fashion to a few other bags that we've looked at recently, has this quick adjustable bit of functionality here, which of course is crucial for a bag like this because they look much better when they're quite close across the back rather than looking all limp and saggy. So you do want to tighten them up, but then at the same time you need to be able to get them on and off quite easily too. In similar fashion to Underscore Coded that we looked at a few weeks ago, this is very much a small brand. All of these bags are handmade by the brand's owner in the US, which is pretty cool. And over the last couple of years, we've definitely seen Motif kind of evolve and their products change from relatively basic designs into things that are more complex and nuanced. We featured other bags and accessories from them in the past, both on the channel and over on Instagram, and I think this is probably the most fully featured, the most advanced from a construction perspective, and probably one of the best looking ones as well. And kind of as evidence of all of those changes, if you have a look on the back here, not only are they using this mesh backing here, which of course is going to be more comfortable against your back, but they've also got this cool stitched detailing here, which represents more advanced finishing than we've seen on their bags before. You might have seen recently a bit more jewellery on the channel. We did that sponsored video with Vitali a while back, and since then I have genuinely been enjoying wearing those rings. They are just super minimalist, so it feels very, very easy and effortless to just chuck those on with pretty much any outfit. Unfortunately, I am a bit of a ring novice, so some of those were not quite the right size, so I'm getting those swapped out currently. But yeah, when those come back, you will almost certainly see them pop up elsewhere. Since they're not super expensive relative to many other jewellery brands, it does feel like a good entry point if, like me, you're not super used to wearing this stuff. But following that, I've been wearing a few pieces from French brand Axiom. They're, again, a pretty small operation. You've got 2 people hand making all this stuff, and the focus is on both titanium-based things and very sharp, clean, geometric lines. You might have seen already, I've got the Xenos ring here, which I'm pretty sure you get when you join X-Men, but it is pretty noticeable without being too flashy, and that's partly because of that titanium finish here. It doesn't quite have the shine that silver does, nor does it tarnish or really require the same level of care. It's also an extremely light material, so it almost is kind of slightly disconcerting when you first get this, but yeah, it's certainly welcome when it's actually on the finger and not really, it doesn't really impede anything. But for me, it's the Buster Sword pendant that really takes the spotlight. I think it's such a cool shape, it works super well with the material, and of course being a direct reference to Cloud's Buster Sword in Final Fantasy VII, right down to the specific proportions. Also suits my style perfectly, I think. Cool and futuristic on the outside, but secretly a massive gamer nerd. The clasp on the back has this kind of, it's almost like a mini puzzle, has this little cool sliding design. I don't quite have the skills to undo that behind my back yet, but I'm sure I'll get it with time. All this stuff is made through electro-discharge machining, which is actually pretty unusual in jewellery. You'd more associate it with engineering, but that's how they've been able to get things that have these super clean kind of angles and lines with them, which again is not something that you would typically see from many other brands. Again, I'm pretty new to jewellery, but I've certainly been enjoying this stuff so far, and it's definitely made me keen to experiment and check out some other brands, so you'll definitely be seeing more other stuff on the channel coming up. Oh, and of course, let's not forget the acronym USB stick, which although at £2,500 is quite expensive, but you do get a free laptop with it. I picked up these Nike gloves a couple of weeks ago. I actually got them for running because I thought they wouldn't make my hands as hot as a full-length glove. They're not exactly Nike's finest work, but at 20 quid they're a relatively inexpensive pickup. But I think they work from a fashion context too. Fingerless gloves like this are of course very rebellious looking, they're very kind of edgy, but combined with the overall sportswear aesthetic and that Nike branding, there's that athleisure kind of element to them too. You know, it's all very mirror's edge really, isn't it? I think these are actually designed for weightlifting. They've got these kind of little spongy bits in the palm here, but of course you can use these for whatever you want. Of course these are not going to be much use when it's really cold out, but it's certainly better than nothing, and these will give you better dexterity than any full-length glove out there. I know loads of brands have those touchscreen friendly gloves now, but they give you a lot less dexterity than these will, let's be honest. You might have seen me wearing this as well. I picked up this G-Shock watch a couple of months ago now, and while it feels like the smartwatch might be the obvious Techwear accessory, because it is literally Techwear, I kind of like the idea of something that does feel very ruggedized, like it's designed to survive the apocalypse. This model in particular, the GMW B5000V, is special in a couple of ways. Firstly, it's one of their all-metal watches, whereas most of them are made primarily with resin. And secondly, this uses a proprietary vintage finish. So it has that kind of pre-worn, already been through the apocalypse kind of aesthetic, and makes it far less shiny than any of the other all-metal watches. And of course it has a bunch of other features that you might expect, like satellite control time, stopwatch functionality, different time zones, and even a little bit of basic smartphone connectivity, in that you can use a smartphone app to set alarms, which then will beep on the actual watch. Although it would be cool if it had a little bit more smartphone functionality, maybe showing you the current temperature or, you know, step counter that's pretty common with stuff like this. I didn't buy it for smartphone functionality, so I can't be too mad about that. I debated buying this watch for absolutely months, but I just never found anything that I liked the look of or I felt suited my style as much as this one did. Unfortunately, the all-metal G-Shock watches are fairly expensive. They start at, I think, £450 and they go right the way up to about £1,500 for the limited edition titanium ones, with this one coming in kind of midway at about £900. This one being limited, I think, is not really very available anymore either, sadly, but if you like the overall look of this, you like that kind of retro square design, there's a whole bunch of different G-Shock watches coming in at different price points that have pretty much the same aesthetic as this one. I think the base one is something like £99, and then they go up from there depending on kind of features or construction changes. And to be honest, even some standard Casio watches still have that cool retro look about them, and there's loads of cool customizations and mods you can do with that stuff, so you can get something really interesting at a fraction of the price of this one. But this felt like exactly the right thing for me, both aesthetically and functionally, so I'm pretty happy with it personally. And as I've not worn a watch for a long time, it's nice to have something that feels a bit special and a bit more premium. Like, these are not far off the price of an entry-level tag, but unless you really know your G-Shocks, you're just not going to know the price of this or that it was limited or anything like that. It just looks like a cool watch. Since it's winter, let's also talk a bit about face and neck coverings. Outlier sent over a couple of cool masks for last week's video, and they also included something a little bit more substantial in the form of the Ultra Charge Mag Bandana. Now this has got 4-way stretch fabric on the outside, comfy merino on the inside, and a lining of Polartec Alpha. So you've got one thing here which is both protective, comfy, and going to keep you warm as well. The magnetic closure on the back is a great modernization on a classic bandana design, and of course you can wear these two ways, from law-abiding citizen to pistol-wielding train robber. Both those options look equally good though, I think, thanks to this nice relaxed drape that this thing has, and it means that because it's relatively thin as well, it's not really going to disrupt the silhouette of anything too much if you choose to wear this under a jacket, for example. It's a great cool weather accessory with a bit of versatility that's clearly more functional than a regular bandana, and looks very different to the traditional and more ubiquitous scarf. Coming in at under $100 for what is, from a material perspective, pretty uncompromising, doesn't feel too bad to me either. But if you're thinking that's just not big enough, I want my neck protection to be triple XL, then Aoku have the option for you. So I got their shimag last week along with a couple of their cool graphic tees, so thank you very much for these. I think this one is my favourite, by the way, with the kind of big logo, the kind of split thing. I think it's pretty nice. Although at 125 euros puts this above Outlier's bandana, you can see just by the size of this thing, this is clearly something quite different. Now the face fabric here is Stotz Etterproof with Polartec Wind Pro on the inside. So yeah, the inside fabric designed of course for comfort, but then on the outside, not only are you going to get good water resistance and protection from this thing, but perhaps more importantly is how this affects the shimag's structure. When it's done up, which you do by basically pulling this around your neck and then feeding it through one of the material loops at the end, this gives multiple layers of these very kind of large, deliberate folds, which kind of makes it look like multiple layers of armor. It gives it this real thick, very protective look, and it drapes noticeably differently to any other scarf or shimag out there. You can't secure this to your face as you can with the Outlier one, but if you do this up fairly tightly, you will find that you can kind of pull this up and it will help protect your face a little bit anyways. It's also big enough to wear babushka style as a hood, giving you some protection in a pinch. That's where the water-resistant face fabric will really come in handy. Clearly attention paid to actual utility too, not only just with those loops at the corners giving you means of easily securing this in your chosen style, but there's a fabric strip running corner to corner that makes it easy to fold the face and the inner fabric into the right place and provide some structure. There's also an elastic loop which can be revealed between the two fabrics and used to turn this into a little makeshift pillow, cozy and easy to store, particularly as in this config it can be attached to a bag for easy external carrying. That's a pretty cool extra piece of functionality and it doesn't impede using it day to day, so it's pretty cool implementation. And it clearly offers a strong, distinctive aesthetic whilst being warm and protective too. Going out on some nice rainy walks recently, I've certainly noticed that this does a better job of keeping me warm than just relying on my mid layer alone. This works well as a top layer or underneath a jacket if you don't mind wearing that undone or at least not done up the whole way, just because of the amount of bulk that this thing causes. You're not going to be able to stuff all that down inside a jacket. That of course allows for some quite different looks. You can see in this recent Instagram picture how this really changes the overall kind of bulk and appearance of the Outlier shelter from the Storm jacket, which by itself is fairly kind of neutral and minimal looking. But with the shimag, it makes it look way more protective and it almost makes it look like the shimag is kind of part of the collar. And that will be the case for pretty much any jacket that you choose to wear this with. And as a final note on accessories, don't forget the power of those little personal items or trinkets of things that you like. There is no prescribed list of things that are or are not cool, so if you've got something that means something to you or you just think is cool for some reason, that can make a great accessory. I have my little gym badge that I attach to some bags because, again, gamer nerd, but things like that just add a fun bit of flair and it's stuff that no one else is necessarily going to have or be wearing in this context. Even my car keys have a fun little keyring on, and bonus points for knowing what this is and where it's from, so feel free to mess around. And that is the end of the bumper small accessories roundup. We covered a whole bunch of different categories here, so if you've got something that you feel like spoke to you in particular, you feel like could really work with your personal style, then definitely let me know down there in the comments. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a like because it is super appreciated, and as always, we will be back next week with another one. Shout out to everyone who gave some helpful suggestions last week for different mask brands that you might want to consider trying out. And shout out to Corvée for noting the different way of tucking in the elastic on the Orbit Gear masks to make them look a little bit cleaner. And shout out to Ace Please, glad I could help you through lockdown. And congrats on picking yourself up some cool tech pants. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. If you want to catch some more, there's going to be links going up at the top. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I'm not going to do the graph shaming thing that some people love to do on YouTube these days. But if you haven't subscribed, you should definitely consider doing so because there's going to be a button over there on the side. We've got loads of videos coming out every single week, so get involved.